This is a place.
This is the place.
This is a place. We want to talk about. This is a place.
Thank you for listening to This is a Place podcast. My name is Brandon.
And I'm Nate.
And we are joined by two people that are a lot more famous here in Utah than we are. Utah famous.
That's
Hello.
us.
Yes.
We're not really Utah famous, but
No.
but
Like, take it back.
We are not. No.
but we know a lot about Utah famous things. So
Yes. And you do a good job of it on your podcast that you do. But this has been a long time coming. We've talked back and forth for the last couple months, and finally, you guys are our sister podcast.
Mhm.
We always joke about, like, I'll say to Nate, "Oh, the girl version of our podcast did this episode or whatever," and so that's how we finally have connected now. So we're excited about it.
yeah, we're excited. When we heard that you guys were doing the podcast too, I think we both immediately subscribed, and we're excited to hear the places that you guys went to. And it's been fun to hear you guys do episodes like you did, like the Dumb and Dumber one. And we had talked about Dumb and Dumber and what things you pulled out of, researching about that. So it's been fun. And your intro song is amazing. I mean, we have the Osmonds, but your guys' is great. And then your Christmas one was also perfect. So
Thank you. It was, it just kind of came together.
Yeah.
Nate's the good writer. He always comes up with these things.
I don't know words to songs ever, and so I just make them up. So I'm used to just making up random songs and words. Drives my wife crazy. She's like, "That's not the way it goes." I'm like, "I know." I would never said it was. But do you guys want to introduce, say what your names are and kind of introduce yourselves and how you got started with your podcast?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sarah.
My name is Sarah Champion, and on our podcast, I am the Utah transplant with Canadian roots. I grew up in Canada. I moved here in high school, went to Orem High in Orem, Utah. And then Jordan and I'll let Jordan introduce herself, and then we can talk about how we met.
I'm Jordan, and I've born and raised in Utah. I lived in New York for about 2 years, like 5 years ago. And I've been here, born and raised, I guess I was actually born technically in Utah County, but I grew up in Farmington, and now I'm in Salt Lake. And Sarah and I met at UVU. Do you want to say it?
No, go for it.
We met at UVU. We both did graphic design and kind of became friends through that. Sarah also had lived in New York for a while, so we bonded over that. Our girls are the same age. And we were kind of just, stay at home, work from home, freelance moms. And then we decided actually Sarah came up with the concept of Utah Famous.
Yeah. Well, I knew I wanted to do a podcast, and I knew that Jordan already did a podcast with her husband, Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you do another one?
I did another one during the 2016 election. It was called Campaign Critique. It's still up. I think you could find it. It's it was fun. We just went through all of because that year it was like 1 million people were running for office, Republicans. And so we went through both sides, and we looked at all their campaigns through like a marketing and design standpoint, and like non-bias as much as we could be. And we actually were almost going to do it again for 2020, but I'm kind of glad we didn't. But it was really fun to kind of look at everything, like from how they were approaching just all of it, if they did their social well, if their logos looked good, and all of that. So that was fun. So we had gone through that, and that was my experience.
Cool.
Yeah. So because she had that experience, I was like, oh, maybe Jordan would want to do a podcast with me. And so I kind of just had an idea to do Utah famous. I wanted, because like it was 2019 and everyone's doing a podcast, obviously. And most people are doing like pop culture podcasts and with these really wide audiences. And I kind of wanted to do something with a smaller audience, more niche and like something that local people would be interested in, and something that was interesting to us as well. And so I kind of approached Jordan with that, and she luckily was on board. And so, yeah, here we are.
Over a year later now at this point for you guys.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy, but it's been a lot of fun for us, I think. And so that's the motivator for this. Like, it's obviously not pulling in money or tons of listeners, but it's just fun for us. So
yeah,
that's
and
why we
we've
do it.
explored, I mean, Sarah's explored more of Utah than I have since we started, but we've both done a lot of fun things that we probably wouldn't have done. And then, of course, when like 2020 came around and everything kind of shut down, it was fun to kind of escape that a little bit and focus on these different places and people. And then, you know, we went to the Spiral Jetty and like you guys, just kind of going places that maybe you wouldn't have gone before. And it's been a nice distraction, I think.
You guys go to obviously a lot more places than we do.
Yeah, your guys' focus is on places. We've done places, we've done people, different history, like
All Utah stuff.
Yeah, kind of
Yeah.
more broad. But yeah, why did you guys? Maybe you've already had an episode and I missed it, but why did you guys kind of start?
Yeah.
I don't know if I really know the story anymore.
Well, the story is what happened is
You mentioned there's a new trampoline park by our house.
That's what it was.
In Jordan Landing. And he said, it'd be fun to go over there. And I'm like, heck yeah. Like I would do it. I don't need my kids to go to a trampoline park. And he took me serious and said, let's go. And then I think that kind of evolved into he was listening to podcasts. I'm not a millennial, so I'm not super familiar with the podcast game, but he was talking about podcasts and how we should do one, right?
Yeah.
And
I actually remember the exact moment. I was like, well, I've always wanted to do a podcast, but I was like, we should just do a podcast and talk about these dumb things we do. Like we're two adult men at a trampoline park
doing
on a
childish
Tuesday afternoon.
things.
Like we should just talk about this.
Yeah.
Because everybody wants to hear about it. So it was kind of just a fun, it took us a while to get going because that was actually in April of 2019, probably May of 2019 when we talked about that, and we finally launched it March of 2020, the best year to start a
the best month too. You really picked a good one.
In one of our early episodes, we even joked about the coronavirus, like, oh yeah, there's this little virus that's coming.
Little did we know.
That's what's funny, I think, because doing a podcast now, like you can kind of look back and be like, oh, this was before coronavirus hit. Like we have this little history of us talking about it and dealing with it, which is kind of interesting, you know, a little piece of history.
And Sarah and I were usually in the same room recording, and we just had the one mic. And then this happened, and we were like, okay, well, let's get two mics. And how do we record? You know, we barely know what we're doing, but it's like, how do we record when you're at one house and I'm here? And anyway, so it's a weird, and I was like, do we even get two mics? Because like this might only last a couple weeks, you know, like, is it really worth the investment? And anyway, so it's worked out. I'm glad we got the two mics, but it was just so funny how we just had to adapt and had no idea that was going to happen.
And we like haven't really seen each other much. Like every few months we see each other in person. So it's kind of weird.
Yeah, it is totally weird.
But just the truth to be told, the real reason why we did the podcast was just an excuse for us to hang out and not have the wives get mad at us. Because when we want to go do something fun, like it's for the podcast.
It's research.
Like, I don't want to go, honey. I really want to stay home with you, but
it's
for the podcast.
Our tens of followers are demanding that we go check out this place. We have to go.
We have to.
Yep.
Yeah. And we can say that everybody's requesting certain places and nobody needs to know. No one has.
No one's
It's
checking.
just what we want to do, and that's gonna be our excuse.
Yep. Yeah. So it's really just an excuse, our podcast, to go to places. And kind of what I think Jordan said earlier that Sarah's gone to all of these places that she's never been before. And
Yeah.
I've been here my whole life, and it's the same thing. It's like there's all these places that you always think about going, but there's nothing that really shoves you out the door to do it, right? And now this is the excuse to get out and see places, which could be a segue into what we're talking about today, right?
Yeah. So we kind of talked back and forth with you guys and decided on Allen Park, or as it's also known, Hobbitville.
Yeah. Did you guys lived closer to Hobbitville in like high school in that perfect age than we did. Had you guys visited it or knew the lore, or was that like a thing at your high school?
No, it was. It's like all the other urban legends like around town. So my one experience with it in high school was somebody talked about it when we were driving around and said, let's go visit. So a couple guys, couple girls, you know, like you do in high school,
right?
Trying to be all macho and stuff. And so we drove over there, if I can recall. So this is back in like 96, 97, got to the entrance and we're pulling in the park and the girls just started flipping out and had bad feelings and thought we were going to die. And so
that was me.
As far as we got. So we just basically did a 180 turnabout in the driveway and drove off. So that's as close as I got until a few weeks ago. So.
And now you can go there and you won't get in trouble. Not trespassing.
Yeah, those no trespassing signs are down now.
I myself have always been how do you say it? I don't want to say a wimp. I've always been a rule follower. I've always wanted to follow the rules. So for me, going to a place like Hobbitville, well, I heard about it, I was like, oh, it would be so cool to go there and see the little people or whatever we thought was actually happening there, but never got around to it. The most rebellious thing I went was to the rope swing. Did you ever know about the rope swing? Guess you probably didn't grow up in the Salt Lake area, but there was always a rope swing that you could go to. It was over by Shoot the Tube. Have you done that before?
No.
You don't know what Shoot the Tube is?
No.
I have heard of Shoot the Tube. Okay. Is that like No, it's not Donut Falls. Where is it? Is it in the canyons?
It's what's that? There's a park over there.
It's like a canal, like just like a man-made canal or something. Do you go like are you under
know about this?
I've heard of it, but he's like, I'm not doing that.
Well, I'm probably the one that wouldn't do it. He'd be down for it, but I'd be like, no, we're not supposed to go there.
But there's a rope swing there by a bit.
Like when he tried to break into Raging Waters, I was like, no, we're gonna get in trouble.
Right.
It would have been really easy, by the way. Anyway, sorry, I got us off track. No, I've never been to Hobbitville. We do this a lot.
Short answer.
Yeah.
I did the same thing. We drove up to it and then like lights came on and someone came to the window and in my mind it was a little person and it wasn't, but it looked really small from where we were. And then, and we backed out and we were too scared. Sarah had you heard of it?
I don't know if I heard about it in high school. But I think, I was maybe in my 20s when I had heard about it first, but never been there. And then Jordan did an episode on our podcast about it.
Yeah, the history of it, which it has a really interesting history. And I wrote down a couple notes. I went back and listened to it because I had forgotten. I don't know if you guys do that where you're like, what episodes have we done? What's going on? But
you picked a good time to do it because you did the episode, if I recall, right before I don't know if it was it before they announced that they were going to buy it?
It had been announced, but it was like, I don't think there was an opening date yet. And then COVID happened and it slowed it down. And so I don't think we even announced on that episode that it had opened until later in the year because I think it wasn't until like October of 2020. But it had been announced that it was being purchased by the city. But yeah, the history is really cool. Basically, Dr. Allen, he was a physician. This is like in 1931, so Great Depression. He purchased this about 8 acres, and he was super interested in animals. He had like a crazy collection of birds, and so he had all of these cages around there, and he helped a lot of people that couldn't afford to pay him. And so they would, help work on this farm with him and his family, or they would donate like random log cabins or help him move these cabins so more people could live there and rent, is basically how he was subsidizing, helping people that couldn't afford to pay him, and how he could make some money. So anyway, all of these like little cabins started like collecting there, and they were, they're from the 1800s, and they were kind of already falling apart, but they had, I can't remember, I think they had like 30 houses there behind their main log cabin. And anyway, he was part of the Zoological Society. He was like the president, and he helped start the Hobbitville Zoo and the Tracy Aviary. And one of my favorite parts about his story was to advertise for that. He would get like a baby mountain lion on a leash and like walk it up and down the street, like downtown, and just be like, just so like normal. Of course he would. Yeah. Also, we had just watched, when I listened to that episode, we had just watched Tiger King. And we were like, he was like the original Tiger King that actually had like a soul and cared about the animals and cared about people. But anyway, so like he would rock the animals up and down at the downtown, and people would be like, what are you doing? And that was how he advertised for Hobbitville Zoo. But it was like one of the best zoos in the West at the time, which is pretty cool. Because I mean, I think it's a cool zoo now, but I didn't know it was so cool back then. Anyway, and occasionally he would borrow the animals from the zoo and bring them onto property. So at Allen Park, he had once had an elephant hang out there for a couple days. He had some reindeer. Wow. He brought back like a chimpanzee. Anyway, they always just had animals and kind of craziness. But something Sarah and I realized when we were there, which we'll go through that, but the road that goes back there is really like rocky and kind of crazy. Mm-hmm. And I forgot this part until I re-listened to our episode to get ready for this one. They couldn't, he didn't have a lot of money. His client or his patients weren't paying him. So he would, if there was any road construction going on, he would go talk to the construction workers and be like, if you have any extra asphalt, will you just bring it by? So the daughter remembers like running out really fast with like a rake and like spreading it, and the doctor driving his truck up and down to like flatten the asphalt. So they just like made, everything is just very like homemade and piecemeal. And which when you go to see it, I can like picture all of that happening. So
you'll understand if you go.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So the story is just kind of crazy. And then obviously, Dr. Allen passed away in 1961, and I think his wife and his children tried to maintain it, the best they could. And then eventually it was for sale. I'm not sure if there was a second owner, but it was for sale. And I think Sugar House didn't, they didn't want developments to be popping up in that area. So they asked the city to purchase it, which they did. And then it just opened, in October. And Sarah and I went, and it was really cool to go through it. And you can totally see why kids thought it was haunted. I mean, there's all those mosaics and like little poems that he had put on different rock formations, and then the road that is like, I mean, I don't know how long it's been so
like, it's not in good shape at all.
But that adds to the experience if you're trying to drive through there at nighttime in your little beat up, high school car. But it was really cool. It was really cool to walk through. And I didn't realize how, I mean, I think Sarah, you were surprised too, like how far back it went and all the houses. And
and when they opened the park, they basically just put like a fence up. I don't think they did anything else. Like obviously they didn't fix the pavement. They definitely don't want people going to the houses that look like they are about to like blow over. But it was very interesting going there and just seeing what you've heard so much about. And I don't know. It was just kind of weird.
Yeah,
kind of interesting.
There's like 30, I guess there's like 30 different artwork mosaics that are around, and they almost look like headstones. They're just like these weird
Yeah.
little rocks everywhere. And then they have like in the main area, they have a big fountain that it wasn't running when we were there. Maybe
No, it was empty.
yeah.
Probably not
And
the
it
best
looked
time
like
of
it.
year to run a fountain.
Yeah, and it looked like it
Yeah.
needed. I don't think it could run.
I don't
was
think it
pretty
worked.
cracked.
Yeah.
and-
Oh.
yeah, but it looks cool. Like I think he made it. I don't know, or maybe someone donated it
Yeah,
to pay him or whatever.
yeah.
But
Everything is kind of handmade.
So I think there's
Haphazard.
a sign in there that talks about how there was either a construction company or material construction company nearby, and the wife would go dig through the dumpster, and they had all these concrete things, and that's how she would make. I think that's like towards
the
the back
mosaics and stuff.
Yeah, that's why they're all kind of hodgepodge and not, all
Yeah.
different. But
Yeah,
And there's still peacocks there. We
Mhm.
saw,
Really?
I think
Yeah.
there's
Cool.
like 2 or 3. We saw one when we were there, and then we chatted with the like security guard guy.
Was
who
there
told-
was the car there, the security car?
Yes.
There was one parked
Car?
like right at the gate, but there was nobody there
Yeah.
around.
So
I don't
he
know if
was
it's
kind
just
of
always
walking
there.
around when we
Okay.
were there, but he was very personable and just wanted to talk and talk and talk. So if you go there, talk to the security guard guy if it's the same guy, but he told us all sorts of stories.
yeah, about like ghosts.
Yeah, we asked
and
if it was haunted.
he.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah,
would
there's
wonder
like
too
a
now.
well.
Mhm.
Yeah, and he talked about the well maybe being haunted, and people that had visited that maybe were like mediums or something and
Yeah.
felt weird energies by the well. And so I mean, he probably was just spreading lore, but
Yeah.
I was totally buying it because it was a good story for sure. But yeah, he was a character. That was fun to chat with him. And we asked him about like what their plans were for like cleaning up, and I don't remember what he said. I don't know if there's like they want to redo the main Scandinavian style log cabin that was the Allen's main house. It's like the biggest one when you walk in, but that to be like a visitor center, but it didn't. I don't know if there's like plans to do that very soon, and probably maybe with COVID and everything that got changed, but that was like the original plan, is to make that a visitor center, and then all the other little houses, the ones that were salvageable, make into like research centers or like education areas for like, I think focused on birds mostly, because that was kind of the start of it all. But I don't know, the houses were, I mean, they were definitely cool. I don't know how much it would take to, I mean, some of them I don't think ever had electricity or running water. So I don't know how much it would take to get all those up and running, but it would be cool to go inside some of those.
Yeah, that would be cool. And most of them look like they were kind of like duplex style, right? Like
Yeah,
there was 2
they-
units per property.
They talked about how some of them maybe were built to be duplexes. Some of them they just like kind of forced to be duplexes. So like sometimes they wouldn't fit together very well, but they would just like make it happen. And so some of them do definitely look a little bit funky, and you can see where they it was just 2 houses put together. But there were a couple in the back that reminded me of like Southern, like, I don't know, homes you would find on the beach that had like a screened front porch, and they weren't like log cabin style. I mean, they were very old and run down, but they seemed a little bit I don't know where they came from. But that
Interesting
was
about the
that was really fun.
peacocks, because there's peacocks. It seems like there's peacocks everywhere at the zoo, right?
And Lagoon.
And Lagoon. So
Oh, yeah.
where do peacocks even come from? I haven't even thought about that. Are they native to Utah?
Heaven.
Little drops from
Thank you.
heaven.
But it's interesting to see that correlation, at least how much of a hand he had in the zoo, and then you can see that in the peacocks.
And in the park, there's I don't remember if it was sign or what it was, but it says this creek or river, whatever, if you follow it all the way up, east, you'll land at, this is the place. Heritage
Yeah.
Park,
Is
and
it
that goes past the
Immigration
zoo.
Oh,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Interesting.
like it says like from here like 2 miles to this is the place.
yeah. They in the article they were referring to it as Immigration Creek, and so, but I guess I didn't think about it being part of Immigration Canyon. But yeah, it would probably go all the way up there.
Yeah, there's a sign or something that said that because the lady I was with mentioned that. She goes, "Isn't that park that Brigham Young said something?" Like, yep. She was from Dallas. So yeah, that's how I went to the park a few weeks ago. Was one of my agents in Dallas Fort Worth. She came out to visit, and we were going through the Salt Lake City Cemetery and talking about all the urban legends there. And she goes, "Are there any other legends?" And I said Hobbitville, and she's like, "Oh yeah, we're going there." I'm like, "I've never been there, so yeah, let's go check it out." So,
Well, Jordan, you talked about how, he would have people do jobs for him to kind of offset their pay. But you didn't mention one of the most important jobs he had someone do was, I heard there was a story where one of the tenants, there was this ring that had to be destroyed. And so
it was Rudy had to help him.
What?
Rudy? Yeah. The football player, Rudy.
Sean Astin.
Oh my gosh, Brandon. She
Oh,
got
yeah.
it.
Oh,
Holy
man.
cow.
I'm like, what are you talking about, Rudy? I'm talking about Lord of the Rings.
Are
dang
you
it.
looking to do another podcast? Somebody that understands my jokes?
Sarah's got it.
I got it.
Thanks,
All right.
Sarah.
All right. Totally
You're
ruined my
welcome.
joke.
Sorry.
But that's one of the things that interests me most. I'm always interested in, like, where did the whole Hobbitville come from? Did you find that in any of your research at all?
There wasn't anything that was like, this is the story. It seems to be is that those like the log cabins are small. If you think of like Pioneer Village at Lagoon, the cabins just they don't look so miniature, but they are definitely, people were just, I don't know, littler back then, shorter. Like, you're ducking your head down. I'm only 5'4", and you're kind of ducking your head down to get into the cabins or at This Is the Place park. So I think the lore just kind of grew from that because the houses seemed small, but I didn't find anything. The most interesting like story I heard of someone that lived there was, one that he never saw any little people that lived there. He lived there, I think it was in the 90s. And then just like every night it was like around 10 o'clock, perfect timing. All of the high schoolers would come in and kind of the people that lived there would they would join in on the fun, but it also I think was annoying because sometimes their property was damaged. Mm-hmm. So sometimes they would join in and just start like yelling and banging pots and pans together and pretending, kind of adding to scare the high schoolers. And then I think there were times where a window would get smashed or something, and then they would be actually irritated and probably would throw things at their cars. But there wasn't any, I couldn't find where that originated. Because I remember in high school learning that it was, a neighborhood of little people that, didn't want to live in the outside world or whatever. They didn't want to socialize with anyone else except each other. I don't know if that's what you guys heard, but that was, and I could not find the source of that. I'm just assuming it's because those cabins were so small.
Yeah. And I also wonder if the Allens, George Allen and his wife, were smaller, because everyone was smaller back then, right? Too. And that's a good, who knows?
Oh, I was going to say, I remember friends in high school saying that they saw little people. And so then, of course, I believed what
Everyone
they said.
Well, they didn't. Their friends, neighbors, uncles.
Yes.
Came out with pitchforks, right? So.
Yeah, totally.
Or just little forks because they were little people.
That's right.
Regular size forks.
Here in Utah, we just love the legends and we love making things much bigger than they are. And so I don't know if that's a Utah thing or if that's just a human thing.
It's a cultural thing with Utah too.
Yeah, we get bored pretty easy, so we make crap up to fill our time, especially before the internet, right? And that's probably part of the reason why the legend of Hobbitville became, because there's no way to fact check it, right?
Exactly.
So it just grows from there. But
yeah, it like had to have just been word of mouth back then. But
Mhm.
that you guys have the same story that I had, and going to different schools. It's funny how word travels like that.
I mean, this is probably a whole episode in itself, but just like what other legends are there that have just grown? You guys have covered a couple of them on your podcast as well, like the Bear Lake Monster.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
Right?
yeah.
That's one.
There's the Rio Grande. We talked about the Rio Grande lady, purple lady or whatever.
Oh yeah.
My school sadly had a Ted Bundy took one of our other students that went to my high school in the 60s. And so we had Ted Bundy Trail that was just like a made up, like the story was that that's where he went. There's no evidence of that ever happening. He did take someone from our school, that's true, but there wasn't, and they never found any evidence after that. I think I don't remember. It's one of those stories that I kind of want to do, but it's just so sad that I don't want to do it. And teachers at my high school were students at the time, so I had kind of heard like them talk about it a little bit. But that was one thing. We had Ted Bundy Trail, and then we also had Bigfoot Trail, which was actually Lagoon Trail. There's a trail that goes behind Lagoon that basically it like outlines the park, but there's a lot of trees. There's only a couple times where you can see into the park, but it's maintained by Lagoon, and it's all paved. It's really pretty, and it goes up to Farmington Pond. Anyway, at nighttime, it's Bigfoot Trail. So we had like those
cool.
little things.
Because people see Bigfoot?
I think people dress up as Bigfoot and then their friends see Bigfoot. I think that's what happens. It's
or
like
maybe even less than that is one person just said, I'm going to just say that I saw Bigfoot. And now everybody uses that same story.
Totally. And there on one part of the trail, you can see the animals that you can't see when you're in Lagoon.
Mm-hmm.
So they have like bison and some other like bigger animals in the back that they're just like a fence and they're right there. So I wonder if maybe kids saw the bison at nighttime and it just seemed like Bigfoot.
Bigfootish.
Yeah, I don't know. Those were my high school ones. Sarah, did you have any?
Well, there's Skinwalker Ranch, which we did an episode on also, which I don't know if that's considered an
That's real, though.
legend.
That's all real.
It's real. There you go.
Yeah.
It's on TV, so it has to be real.
Have you watched that show? The Skinwalker Ranch show on Sci-Fi?
I've seen parts of it.
I watched something on Hulu about it, but
yeah,
interesting stuff.
I watched like maybe 2 episodes of the show, and it was just like too ridiculous for me. So, but yeah, I guess people believe that. So,
Timpanogos has
I mean, there are those type of legends like at the legend of Timpanogos, the legend of the waterfall,
Bridalveil Falls.
Bridalveil Falls.
We did an episode on that.
We did an episode on that. So there's those type of Native American legends that I highly doubt were written by Native Americans, but there's a few of those in Utah County, but I'm sure there's more. I just don't know.
Sarah was just too like, whatever. I don't believe it. She doesn't believe in ghosts.
I don't believe anything.
She's too realistic.
I'm a skeptic by nature.
Yeah.
And you go wander through Hobbitville at night by yourself and see how
you gotta take the Hobbitville
I also
challenge.
scare very easily about ridiculous things. So
she doesn't believe it, but she's a scaredy cat.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm in the same. Well, I believe it, but I'm also a scaredy cat. So. Just ask me.
That makes more sense.
Walking through a haunted house with me.
Oh, I refuse to do haunted houses. That would not work out well for anyone.
Sarah lucked out that we didn't get to go to Frightmares last year because I was going to make her go because that's what I grew up doing. It was Frightmares. So next 2021.
Well, we're fans of your podcast, and we demand that in 2021 there's a Frightmares episode.
The people have spoken. We have to do it.
These people have spoken.
Collaborate again and have a video camera on Sarah and Brandon.
No,
through
just Sarah.
on a house.
No.
I was pretty brave at Frightmares this year, I will say. because it was less scary because they couldn't get close to you.
That's
Oh
true.
yeah, they
Gotta
couldn't
keep their
touch
distance.
you.
It was the year to go for you, Sarah, and you missed
I
out. This was your
missed
chance to be like,
out.
I am so brave.
That is true. Yeah, they had to I guess they'd have to stay 6 feet
Mhm.
away.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, they really did.
It was
Were
very
you still
unscary.
were
I
you still
loved it.
scared though?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah, of course. But
Did they have the like seance thing?
I
There was
don't
like
think so.
you had to pay a little extra,
No,
but it was
I
like
don't-
a
they didn't.
play
Not
that
this
was like
year.
a seance.
Next to the arcade, right?
Yeah, you had to be
Mm-mm.
close together, so I'm sure it would have been
by
hard
the
to-
Arby's. Is that where they do
No,
it?
you know where the arcade is? Just
Oh.
to the, if you're looking at the arcade, just to the right, there was you paid extra to go into seance,
A
right?
seance.
Yeah.
Ooh, scary.
Yeah, but it wasn't.
I've seen like a hypnotist show there before, but that was.
And they didn't. I don't. Maybe no, they did. They didn't during the summer. They didn't have their play over by the carousel with that little
Oh,
singing
yeah,
production, but they did for Halloween, even though they only let like 10 people in at a time. It was interesting.
yeah, yeah.
So it was a weird year for Lagoon. It was actually kind of fun in some aspects because it was less crowded, at least at
Right.
the beginning. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they do next year.
Yeah, what the
What
kind
the
of
conditions
rules
are.
will be.
Mhm. Yeah.
Sarah's
Well-
excited.
Yeah. Do you guys have any other facts about Hobbitville or Allen Park that you want to share?
Go
I'm trying to
visit
see
if
what
you
I-
can.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to go
it-
visit still. We usually try to go visit places. Actually happens more often than it should that we say, let's do this episode. And then we don't end up going and visiting the place until after we've recorded.
We've done that. We've like done the episode for like Spiral Jetty, and then we went to visit the Spiral Jetty, and then we forgot to talk about it for like 5 episodes. And we're like, went there, we need to talk about it. So
That's
we
what
do
we did with
recaps at the
Allen
beginning.
Park. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We did our Allen Park episode. We went and then we never talked about it.
I'm glad we all have the same struggles. We're not the only ones that
We're not
make
professional.
all these.
I guess it's a Utah thing.
Yes.
Well, because you guys were so nice to do this, this episode with us, I wanted to offer you a copy of The Hobbit as a token of our appreciation.
Oh my gosh, I love all of the things
Wow.
you just tied into that.
Thank you.
You got any other Hobbit jokes? Usually Nate's the one that looks up jokes, but I was like, I'm gonna look up jokes this time.
My Hobbit joke you didn't get. The Rudy reference.
Yes, I remember.
Literally 10 minutes ago, Nate.
Did you guys get a chance to use the bathroom when you were at Allen Park or at Hobbitville?
No. Is there one?
There is, but it's always occupied.
Oh,
I literally
coming in with the dad jokes.
So what did the hobbits scream as they were riding the Ents into battle against Isengard? Run, Forrest, run. The Ents are the big
Ents are
trees.
trees.
Yeah.
got it.
That's the only thing I know. But
Nice.
anyway,
I gotta go watch these movies again. I mean, I know
Are
they're
you
the
guys
books
Lord
too,
of the Ring
but
fans?
I used to when they first came out on like DVD. I constantly watched them, but it's been a while.
The
And I-
interesting thing about the Hobbitville thing is that wasn't even a movie. It was just a book. Like it was a popular book back then, but like my
Yeah, that's
mom
true.
knew about Hobbitville, and that was way before the movies came out.
Yeah.
yeah. I want like I said, I didn't find anything. If you guys do an episode about it, like your own, let me know if you find out. But I couldn't figure out where that originated from, because yeah, the timing was off. I mean, books were around, like you said, but
Yeah.
wasn't necessarily super popular.
All
Cool.
right. Well, that's Allen Park. Again, thank you guys for taking the time. This was a lot of fun to hear about your experiences as you've done the podcast, and it's fun we've been able to finally connect. We're big fans of you guys. So thanks for
Finally gonna meet our sisters.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brothers. Yeah.
My
Yeah.
brother
Likewise.
podcast.
Yep. Well, thank you guys so much. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It was I have done things because I've listened to your podcast, like the Draper lights, a lot of Christmas stuff, the Christmas street. I was like, okay, I didn't know about this stuff. I didn't grow up in Salt Lake, and I feel like that was really helpful during Christmas. And we took a break, so we weren't even
Yeah.
recording, but
Yeah.
Well,
been
cool. Then
fun.
we've accomplished what we've set out to do. So
Yep, exactly.
Well done.
Thank you.
yeah.
That means with you two, that's 12 listeners we have now.
You're almost at our baker's dozen. So
Almost,
Yes.
Almost there.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of This Is a Place.
See y'all next week.